Again, back at Winter Smith Park, right in the heart of District 25, Ada, Oklahoma. Representative Todd Thomsen, a lot more than what we've talked about has gone on up at the Capitol through this session.
There's a lot more, and there's a lot more than what I'll probably even be able to share here in this time. But I do want to share some of the education reforms and maybe move on to some other things. But education reforms, we really made some improvement, I believe, into our testing transparency on the state level, basically giving hopefully teachers, parents, administrators a better handle on exactly where we rank. Right now, 90% of our kids pass the state test, and yet less than half or not even the majority of our kids pass federal test. And so there's a disconnect between how we're doing on the state test and how we're doing on the federal test. And so we've really implemented some legislation to help bring that into an alignment so that we have a better handle on exactly where our kids are, so that we can make some positive steps for our future. And as part of this legislation, I'm excited because I'm going to get to be a part of a task force to help talk about some of those issues with testing. Also, one bill that did not get signed by the governor was Senate Bill 834, very controversial with teachers. It was something that they had a lot of heartburn about. But I think the important thing was that it was pushed and promoted because sometimes just getting people to discuss ideas is one of the biggest accomplishments, and that's one thing. Advancing that bill as far as we did helped just bring to light some issues in the state and really bring people to the table that have been unwilling to discuss issues. And really the teachers union really needs to come to the table and start discussing possible reforms instead of just digging their heels in the sand. And that's kind of been the mode for too many years in our state. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is autism is a big issue, has been a big issue, and a very sensitive issue because many families deal with an autistic child, and it's a great burden for a family, though those kids are a blessing just like every other child is. It can be a very taxing issue for many families. Legislation has been proposed to mandate insurance companies provide all these different therapies, and our position as House Republicans has been that you cannot mandate the insurance company to do something unless you have the infrastructure in place so that if they want that therapy, they want that treatment, that it's actually there to go get. Right now we were going to mandate the insurance companies provide something that isn't even available for the families to get. So we really proposed legislation that would help start building that infrastructure. And I think that's very significant and very wise course of action. Instead of just adding expense onto insurance rates, it builds the infrastructure first.
And so in order to do that, as I understand it, is the House Republicans proposed, and Representative Chris Steele did a lot of work in this research, was to incentivize that business climate so that more people would come to our state to practice the practices that we need in order to help these families with autistic children.
Right. Set up some licensing, some criteria for our state for those therapies, and really trying to incentivize those doctors, those therapists that would provide all of those treatments so that, like I said, not only is that infrastructure in place for the few that can make it to Tulsa or Oklahoma City, but as we go out into the rural areas, it's also available.
And again, what that does is it stimulates our economy. It brings new businesses, new jobs to Oklahoma, stimulating our budget. And there has been some overages in some other areas, I guess, that you guys felt the need to address in our prison systems.
Well, Representative Terrell has made it his mission to, one, address illegal immigration through House Bill 1804 a couple of years ago. This year, though, his proposal was to begin the deportation of those illegal immigrants that are in our prison systems that have committed nonviolent acts, but actually start the process of of putting them in the hands of the federal government so they can be deported, which will save us millions of dollars, which is significant. Not only do we get those bad guys out of Oklahoma, but it saves us money in the process.
So thus lessening the burden through our prison systems, and that's how we can generate more cash into our economy.
That's exactly right. Yep. That and many other things, we've attempted to modernize the government, save ourselves some money, have a strict budget in such a difficult economic climate that we're in, promote reforms. I think all of those things, if you take this, and we just wrap it all up, all of those things bring us to a point where I think you can say that we had a successful legislative session in spite of maybe the economic conditions on a national level.
Which are very tough. And of course, now the legislative session is over, but that does not mean that your job as representative is over. Far be it from the truth. How do we contact you now in the off season?
Well, you can always contact my office at the Capitol. You can always email me at todd.thomsen@okhouse.gov. And everybody needs to remember that it's Thomsen, 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 we will win. But spelling that correctly. But you can contact me anytime. Sherry is at my office. She will contact me. I am blessed because I'm going to get to be a part of some working groups, some task force looking at education, water, higher education, and so I'll be active not only in the district but at the Capitol, but then also doing other things and trying to enjoy my family as well.
And let's just touch just for a second why it's important for us now to contact you. This is the formative stage of when things really start to roll for next year's laws.
That may be the best point. Many people will catch us during session and want some type of legislation, they want some type of issue addressed, and really it's past the point of starting something at that time. And really right now, you're right, is the time to start. If you have an idea, if you have a question, an issue that you want addressed through the legislative process, now is the time to bring that about so that we can really begin the process of crafting language and really working with people to develop a consensus so that we can move an idea forward.
Always great to talk to our representatives, and they're just like us. They're residents that live and want to represent in our community, so we always should communicate with them. Representative Thomsen, all year long, you've been very gracious in spending your time with us and your constituents. Thanks for being on MyLegislator.tv.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to thank all the constituents. Please contact me, and if you have any input or advice, always have open ears and welcome any thoughts that you may have. Thanks.